Welcome to the Rebuild Procurement Podcast, the number one procurement podcast in the world, where we dive deep into topics to keep procurement people up to date and ahead of their peers. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you're listening right now, whether you like this or not. Today, Alan,
you're gonna like this one.
This one's good. On today's episode, we're doing a part two or a second episode of How It's Sourced, and today we are going into, drum roll, gum. So there's been some interesting things that I've discovered about gum, but just real quick, what is built out of? You have your gum base, you have your sweeteners, you have your flavorings and other ingredients that go into it. But the majority of your piece of gum that you can throw it in your mouth right now is oil-based, petrochemical based. So Alan and I are going to go through the supply chain and how it's sourced. I'm Tom Finn, bringing 15 years on the client side, procurement, finance, and category management, experience in large and small cap orgs.
And I'm Alan Veek, a procurement geek on the sell side of the street, and I've assembled a team of superhuman procurement professionals doing managed services at a company that we call Summit.
Let's get into it.
All right. So, Tom, we are in session 2, episode 2, part 2 of what I think is going to be not just a new series, but a whole new thing, how it's sourced. How it's sourced. Everybody wants to know how it's made. Everybody in procurement wants to know and talk about how it's sourced. So we're going to hit this again. The first episode, as you will recall, we had a guest star, Michael Bro, on, and we talked about how a cup of coffee at Starbucks is sourced. And today we're going to be talking about a very special topic near and dear to Tom's heart. Boy, I can't get him to stop talking about this topic. It's chewing gum. We're going to do chewing gum, and very specifically kind of like the progenitor of chewing gum, Wrigley's company, started in 1891. But Tom's got us. This is near and dear to Tom's heart. You want to talk about that first, Tom? I'm going to get it off your chest.
Yeah, well, I'll still repeat it. And it's not, I don't chew an excess amount of gum. I chew it sometimes, and I was listening to another show, another podcast, and they had gone through like a bit of a story and talked a little bit about gum. It was very like in passing, and I had no idea, Alan, that it was all a synthetic thing, right? All petrochemicals, and I'm a petrochemical fan. Just to get that off my chest as well. I'm a fan of the oil industry, and in different ways, that's where I started my career. So yeah, I just did not realize when you go to the basics of it that it is oil based.
Yes. In other words, you're chewing a barrel of oil when you chew your chewing gum.
Yeah, I feel like one of those things where you have a little kid and you're like, hey, do not put that in your mouth, and then you pop a pop a piece of gum, and it's like you're doing the same thing, right?
You're doing exactly
not the same. It's food grade, et cetera, et cetera. However.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we're going to have more on that later in this episode, but maybe what we thought we would do first is talk a little bit about chewing gum in America and chewing gum around the world, and really the first company to popularize chewing gum, even though it goes all the way back to the Aztecs. The first company to really popularize chewing gum was the Wrigley Company, headquartered in Chicago, Illinois, and founded in 1891. And maybe I will give you a little quiz question to start us out, Tom. I'll give you some common brands that Wrigley made famous. We got Big Red. We've got Doublemint,
which is the cinnamon, right? That cinnamon one.
Yeah,
do they even sell that
cinnamon
anymore? I remember that. I remember that taste distinctly.
I am keeping them single-handedly alive with Big Red, because when I ran for class president in 5th grade in elementary school,
everyone got a free pack.
My posters that I hung up on the wall it said "Vote for Big Red," and I had Big Red, little containers of gum open on the poster board that people could take gum out of.
Yes. That's where the marketing mind started, huh? 5th grade class president.
It's a little bit of a branding thing. So we got the Big Red, we got the Doublemint, we've got Spearmint, we've got Winter Fresh gum, we've got Extra, we have Juicy Fruit, of course, which I don't know if Juicy Fruit's still. That's the fruit stripe that I'm thinking. That's gone.
Alan,
the Juicy Fruit is still.
I had a prop which is not in this room, and it is a pack of Juicy Fruit.
Juicy Fruit.
Yeah.
It's awesome. They make Orbit, which I think is probably what most people chew today,
Hmm.
or they also make Extra, the extra soft gum. And then a fun fact, Freedent. Have you heard of this, Tom? Maybe you're too young. Freedent.
Free dent or trident?
No, Freedent. Trident's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Freedent was a gum that was created for people with dentures. So it
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah.
stick to your
Less
dentures.
sticky.
Less sticky, exactly.
Hmm.
Freedent. But where I was going with this is none of those brands are what put Wrigley on the map in 1891. Do you want to hear the brand names, the two brand names that they came out with when they first got started?
Yeah, I wish I'd had a guess, but I have none.
Well, I thought to quiz you, but there's no way you're going to guess this. The first one's very much like an Austin Powers gag line: "Lot of gum, lot of
A lot of
gum,
gum.
lot of gum."
Yeah, branding
And
experts would love that, right? Like,
hey,
like just say what it is.
keep
It's
chewing
a
a
lot of
lot of gum.
gum. Yeah.
And then the second was a product specifically for women called Vassar gum. Not the same as a lot of gum, Vassar gum.
I don't know if that hits
Yeah.
differently. That one, I don't know about that.
Yeah, so those two brands did not survive. The branding people finally kind of tuned it in. And I think their first one they came out with was called Wrigley Spearmint or something like that. So, or Doublemint. So that was in 1891. Fast forward to today, quote unquote today, Wrigley is a part of the Mars Mars Incorporated, kind of the big consumer foods giant, and they were acquired in 2006 for $23 billion. At that time, here's the quiz. We can give you this quiz question. Tom, what was the U.S. market share for Wrigley's at the time of acquisition by Mars?
40%, Alan.
Hmm. Pretty good. Not too bad. 63%. A whopping
That's pretty bad. I'm
63%.
50% off.
Well, no, listen. I mean, you were in the ballpark.
Okay.
And they had a 63% market share in the U.S. and they were in 180 countries. The early 2000s saw pretty dramatic growth in their business. They had pretty steady growth since 1891. But by the time, I think that like kind of turn of the millennium in the late 90s, they were $1.5 billion. But then they started to diversify, started to innovate. By 2004, they were $4 billion in revenue. So nice sized business. And they were 15,000 employees globally. They got to this kind of revenue by diversifying into chocolates, mints, hard and chewy candy, and that all really didn't start until the early 2000s, which is kind of interesting. It feels like it's in our lifetime, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
A company this old, do you think maybe that would have happened sometime in the 1950s or 60s? But nope, not until the early 2000s did they really start to diversify and grow their product portfolio. We're going to start to get into the sourcing a bit, but I think it's worth saying that in 1891, lot gum, Vassar gum, right up until about World War II, the primary ingredient in gum was a product called chicle. Have you ever, again, showing my age, have you ever heard of this gum called chiclets?
Oh, of course.
Of course.
Are they not around anymore?
I don't know if they are. I just never see them. And if they are around, you know that they're not made with chicle. They're probably made with petroleum. But I think that's where that name comes from. Chicle is a natural gum. It's described as a milky latex that's harvested from certain tropical trees in the Americas, primarily this tree called the sapodilla tree. It's native to Mexico, Belize, and Guatemala. So, but you can imagine as Wrigley was growing, by the time World War II hit and just post World War II, because gum was such a huge thing and a growth industry, they did switch to petroleum derived polymers to manage their growth. If you're looking for, go ahead.
I was gonna say I couldn't find the like the reason for the switch other than like it was much lower cost, but it did also. I read that from a air quotes sustainability standpoint, right? If they're to have those trees, it takes a while. I don't know if they need to cut them down in order to get this gum out,
No.
or if it was like kind of like sap, like in Canada for maple syrup.
It's
How they actually use that.
It's kind of in between. So the way that rubber is harvested is you make these hash marks on the tree and you collect what looks like sap, and then you boil it to get to the right kind of gooey consistency. So they described that chicle was harvested in the same way, but I think it was just a problem of not enough. There just wasn't enough of
Mm.
it in this very small band that could grow it. So they started to look for, not just for sustainability reasons, but for their ability to continue to grow their business and innovate in their business. They turned to petroleum, which you think about post World War II, the baby boom. There's lots of growth. There's a whole bunch of new products that came out of the mother is the necessity of invention from World War II. But I think also petroleum just became a big thing after World War II. So
Hmm.
the science behind petroleum that had kicked off during the war, what are all the things we can do with this magical new thing we found called oil? It really kind of took off. That science took off after World War II. You could still find some chicle based gums because, of course, there's the all natural Berkeley granola hippies like me who want to have, I'm not chewing oil. I'm going to chew the real thing. Give me the chicle. And they have such great brand names as Simply Gum, Refresh
Mm.
Gum, Glee Gum, True Gum, Hello Gum, and my favorite one, Oh My Gum.
Are they do they still maintain the same type of consistency as, call it, oil
Yes.
based or polymer based
Well,
gum?
I think in future versions of this podcast, when we're doing how it's sourced, Tom, we're going to bring in some samples, and you and I are going to have like on air
Sure.
trials. Because
Taste test.
shouldn't we have that? Shouldn't we do an A versus B? And we'll probably like put the chicle in and go, oh, this isn't as good. This feels weird. Yeah, that's right,
Yeah.
because it's real. That sort of
Yeah,
thing.
it's supposed to be worse. It's real.
That's right. It's real. Too funny. So that's kind of the background on Wrigley, on their products, their early products, and how we arrived at what I think is the piece you're going to kick off, Tom, which is tell us how it's sourced.
Yeah. So for the how it's sourced side, there's a few different components, right? Because when you go into sourcing, there's the what are you buying, and then there's the manufacturing process of kind of how it's all put together. So I'll start off with the what are you buying, and for me, Alan, the thing that, and this ends up being a lot of, like, call it the nutrition or like the ingredient list, right? Maybe we'll get into some of these things, like what is the essence, right? What is the essence in some carbonated beverages, and what are these, like, artificial flavorings, things of that nature. For gum, it's the gum base. So I don't even know if it says gum base on the side. I think it is. And even my sister, who had worked she lived in Germany for a bit, she's like, is it the same in Europe? I was like, pretty sure it's the same. Pretty sure it's the same. Because I've been telling everybody about this for the past 2 weeks. Therefore, we need to talk about it on here. But but for the composition, right, of what goes into this gum base, it's elastomers or elastomers,
Mm-hmm.
resins, waxes, fillers, softeners. So all of those things, with the exception of maybe the waxes and some of the fillers, they're essentially artificial. So the elastomers, correct me here, Alan,
Yeah,
you're a
no, you
science
got it.
guy.
You nailed
Elastomers.
it. That's the
Yeah.
correct
So the
pronunciation.
elastomers, like, listen to the companies that supply this type of there's a few different versions. There's polyisobutylene. I got that one. PIB. This company's like BASF, Ineos, Exxon, Lubrizol. These are all large, Lanxess. Like,
Lubrizol.
these are like the companies that are in oil and gas and petrochemicals. So they're the starting points. Along with, you can also go a different variant with butyl rubber. There's this company, Arlanxio,
Arlanxio.
which
They're
is,
here in Pittsburgh. They're a
oh,
Pittsburgh-based
Lanxio. Okay,
business.
they're Saudi
Mm-hmm.
Aramco based.
Yep.
They
Yep.
were a JV with Lanxess.
Yep.
So they make this butyl rubber specifically for the chewing gum industry, which I found very interesting. And Exxon has their own, variant. There's the third that I had on here for these elastomers, which is styrene butadiene rubber. Guess the company here. A rubber company, a company you would think of that's like a rubber company, Alan.
Goodyear.
Yeah, Goodyear. Exactly. Goodyear. So, like, those are the companies that make up the base, and of course they all have their portfolios. This isn't a knock on those companies, great companies. It's just something that's interesting to me that they're the
Surprising.
prime ingredient within gum, right? They're the
Yes.
suppliers.
Yes.
Um, The second piece here is the resins. First, I don't know. I don't know if this polyvinyl acetate goes into
Mm-hmm.
it, which
Yeah.
is Wacker Chemi, Celanese, very well known company, and then there's other resins companies like Eastman. It's sort of like name any resin company, and they're kind of part of this process, or most of them are. Then you have your waxes and your fillers. So, um, yeah, I
Didn't
mean
we
it's
have enough
all very
fillers
similar
already? Do we
companies.
need to add more fillers? That seems like
Yeah,
everything seems like a filler so far. But no,
yeah,
I
like
guess it's
Mississippi lime. There's lime components that go into this. I think the
hmm,
uh, one thing about plastics is, which a lot of folks don't recognize, you have all these different types of plastics that, how do you get them to be different? You throw different chemicals at them. That's how a certain cup can become softer. Of course, there's initial like bases of it, right? Like the polypropylene, polyethylene, they come from different sources, but really at the end of the day, you're just throwing different stuff at them, and they're all oil based. So it's very similar with this, right? You, in order to get gum to a certain consistency, you do something up front, you throw some more stuff at it to make it chewy, to make it be able to blow a bubble, things of that nature. And I don't know, this could just be, it was ignorance of me. But I think there's just a lot of things as you go throughout the day, you don't realize all of the work that goes into making something the way it is and having a texture and a feel a certain way. Um,
yeah. Well,
so
you know that I'm going to have to say it at some time during the podcast. Better living through chemistry, Tom.
yeah, it kind of is true. And you don't also realize you call it benefits, or like just folks kind of joke of like, oh yeah, the oil and gas industry is all around you. Like it is.
It
And it
is.
really is a basis for a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think people have to bear in mind too that when you're eating or when you're drinking out of a plastic cup, that's oil. Most
Yeah.
most of the things when you're brewing your coffee in a Keurig K cup, that's oil. It's all around you. And I
Typing
don't
on your
know.
keyboard, that's oil.
That's oil. So much of it around us. I don't know where there's the big talk about microplastics. I guess we're going to get into a phase of research where we're going to figure out which of these plastics generate the most microplastics that end up in your system and we think cause health trouble down the road. But it is so ubiquitous. It's the sort of thing, if you tried to eliminate plastics from your diet, you probably would fail. It's just almost impossible to do.
Yeah, I mean, even your vegetables, like they're covered in plastic, right? There's
Yep, waxes and all kinds of
yeah,
things.
just yeah, exactly. Like the inside of cans and things, like they're lined,
Hmm.
not all, but like a lot of them are lined with something,
No,
right?
most of them. Yep.
Yeah,
Hmm.
most of them are lined with something. Um, so yeah, it is ubiquitous just throughout. And then what is the substitute? Is it better or worse in performance? Like, will it leach more? Things of that nature is kind of where you go into it. And that's why they have like the food grade. If things touch food, or obviously if you're chewing it, they have a different level of expectations when monitored. So yeah, it's that'll, I'm sure we can go down a huge rabbit hole with that one, Alan. I have a bit of
Hmm.
experience, know a decent number of folks in that industry. But
Cool.
just to stay focused on our gum here.
Because we're
So I
not
think
done.
that
The
that
bill of
was the thing.
materials. We're still playing out this bill of materials. Take us from the top
Exactly.
again. We've got the elastomers. We've got the
You got the
gum.
elastomers, you got the waxes, you got the fillers.
Yes.
Um, you got the softeners, right, to have a certain texture.
Hmm.
Hydrogenated vegetable oils. I got to work on. I got to do some tongue exercises for these type of conversations, Alan. Before I get in here, but that's like the Cargills of the world, right? The large companies that play in that space. All those companies, they end up just being support functions for maybe not necessarily Wrigley, but like just the industry in general. And then they go from there. Things that then we think of when we kind of have a better sense, they're on the ingredient list generally, is more the sweeteners,
Yep.
like the sorbitol, xylitol, maltitol, all of these, they come like from here on out. A company like Cargill, which is an incredibly large company, I think it's a private company, they provide a lot of these things. They source a lot of these things, and then they have some competitors of themselves as well. But they can provide that. They can provide the sweeteners like the aspartame, sucralose, stevia, monk fruit or sugar, depending on what goes in there. And a lot of these, like, they're sourced from around the world. These different things, right? For like, if something has cane sugar, maybe it's from down in Brazil or South America. What do we learn about? Was the
Yeah.
for Starbucks, Alan, for the sugar? Was it like the Red Valley, the beets?
The red beets.
In the United States, like there's sugar farms there via beet farms. But yeah, there's sort of, it seemed as if like a lot of the gum industry and like where it comes from was either APAC, North America, or South America. That's kind of what I was when I was looking into the different companies and the support areas. But yeah, that's kind of the hit on the ingredient list there. Juicy fruit, your buddy Juicy Fruit, that one actually uses sugar or corn syrup. So there's just one's, it's kind of what's better, what's worse. Huh?
The healthiest corn syrup.
Yeah. Again, relative, as studies are found out, right? But it does go, just to bring it back to the sourcing side of things, like the different, think of the different companies you're working with within, air quotes, gum. You have like these petrochemical producers, like the oil and gas folks. You have the Cargills of the world, and then from there you have like the manufacturing internally. Of it doesn't come in that gum base. That's something that ends up being formed through process of like mixing and then extrusion, right, where you like push it through a die that spits it out in a certain way, and then it all gets cut up and into, think of just Juicy Fruit or like your traditional Big Red, where it's in that long strip. That's internal manufacturing process that puts it in that fashion.
Yep. And then the all famous packaging, right?
Yeah, all famous packaging. Yeah, that one I don't have as much info on as I was going through. I'd be curious to see what's actually makes up that, because on the outside it looks of the aluminum foil type look, and then on the inside is probably some version
Plastic.
of plastic based.
Then you have those bubble packs. Those are all plastic with a little foil on them. Then you've got the big containers that are actually just plastic cups. So yeah, sure. All plastic,
the ones that fit
all the time, all the way down.
The traditional American, right, where it's just like you put it in the put in your cup holder.
Cup holder,
right?
yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you'll have your paper. But again, even when it's printed on the front, that's also plastics, and then the printing and the ink that goes into that. There's a lot to do as part of those processes.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's neat. Well, I like the fun facts that we came up with here. I love the understanding of where some of these things are sourced and what goes into the gum that you're chewing every day. I think we all have it either in our bag, in our office, in our car. It's a ubiquitous item, and really interesting to find out how it's sourced. Did you know you were chewing a barrel of oil? I bet not. But to your point about
FDA
this being
approved.
FDA approved oil, only the best oil. Thank you very much. The just so you know, I thought to myself, well, certainly chewing gum is not the only thing. No. Many food products. So Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, they've got a preservative in there that's oil based. Betty Crocker's super moist cake mixes, those have artificial colors that are derived from petroleum. And sure enough, everybody's favorite Kraft macaroni and cheese, Yellow 5 and Yellow number 6. Those all come from oil.
Also, only until recently, I had no idea those were oil-based out, and I told you that.
Yeah.
I was shocked to find out. Also, like Doritos have it in there. I remember the joke when I was in like elementary school was about Mountain Dew, right? Because it doesn't get neon green,
real.
that pretty color for no reason.
Right.
I think it's that Yellow 5, which it's just, I think it's just something that for me was surprising. I don't know if I hate it or not. Right? It's not necessarily, I don't even know if I'm judging. I've drank or eaten so much in my whole entire life, but it's just a thing that's still worthwhile when you have folks talking about, I would just only want to drink out of a glass bottle, this, that, and the other thing, like glass or aluminum. It's like, well, maybe it's better, but let's dig deeper. And it would be cool, Alan, at some point. That is the nerds in probably you and I, just even like a can, right? Like, what goes into a can? Is it only rolled aluminum? I don't know. Maybe it is, but definitely not.
We're going to find out.
Yeah. Eventually we'll find out. But things like that, it would be cool to dive into these things. I got a lot out of this one episode here of just digging in a little further to gum.
Yeah, it is quite fascinating. So hopefully everybody is now smarter than your peers about what goes into a stick or a piece of chewing gum.
Very interesting.
All right. Have a great week, Tom. And on behalf of your humble hosts here at Rebuild Procurement Podcast, that's Tommy Finn, the guy who puts the fin in finance, and your OG in procurement, Alan Veek, hoping you will make this a powerful and productive week in procurement. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Show me, and you won't hear the word rebuild.